The massive alien ship appeared in Earth's orbit without warning. It was unlike anything humans had ever seen. The vessel stretched for miles, its surface covered in strange crystals that glowed with blue light. No human radar had detected it. Approaching. One moment the space around Earth was empty, and the next moment this enormous craft was simply there. Ken. Sarah Chun was having her morning coffee in the orbital station when the alarm started screaming. She rushed to the command center where her crew was staring at their screens in shock. The readings made no sense. The alien ship was so large that it blocked out part of the sun when it passed between Earth and the star. "Ma'am, we're getting a transmission," said Lieutenant Torres, his voice shaking slightly. "It's coming from that thing." Sarah straightened her uniform and nodded. "Put it through." The main screen flickered and then showed something that made several crew members step backward. The being on the screen was tall and thin, made of what looked like living crystal. Its body sparkled and shifted colors as it moved. Where a human would have eyes, this creature had two bright points of light that seemed to stare directly through the camera. "I am Ambassador Kethver of the Zephyrian Empire," the being said. Its voice was like the sound of wind chimes mixed with breaking glass. "I speak for the Galactic Council, the rightful rulers of this galaxy. You will listen." Sarah felt her heart racing but kept her voice steady. "This is Captain Sarah Chun, representing Earth and all human colonies. We're listening." The crystal being tilted its head in what might have been amusement. "How quaint. You believe you represent something of importance." The alien paused, and the lights in its head grew brighter. "Your species has been observed? You have spread to 12 star systems in the past 50 years. This expansion ends now." "Excuse me?" Sarah said, not sure she had heard correctly. "The Galactic Council has ruled this galaxy for 10,000 of your years," Kethver continued. "We have brought order to 47 different species. Each one learned to accept their place in the greater civilization. Now it is your turn." Sarah looked around at her crew. They were all staring at the screen with expressions of confusion and growing anger. She turned back to the alien ambassador. "What exactly are you saying?" she asked. Kethver made a sound that might have been laughter. "Your species will immediately cease all expansion beyond your current 12 worlds. All human ships must return to these systems within 30 standard galactic days. Furthermore, you will provide 60% of your industrial output to the Council as tribute. This includes metals, manufactured goods, and energy production." The command center fell silent except for the humming of computers. Sarah felt like someone had just told her that the sky was now green and water flowed upward. "You're demanding that we stop growing as a species and give you most of what we produce?" she said slowly. "We are informing you of your new responsibilities as a member species of the galactic community," the alien replied. "This is not a negotiation. This is how civilized species behave. You will also accept council oversight of your government and military. Council representatives will be stationed on each of your worlds to ensure compliance." Lieutenant Torres made a sound like he was choking. Another crew member muttered something under his breath that Sarah was glad the alien probably could not understand. "And if we refuse?" Sarah asked, though she already knew she did not want to hear the answer. The lights in Kethver's head pulsed brighter. "Refusal is not an option that civilized beings consider. However, if you choose to behave like primitive animals, you will be treated as such. The Council has dealt with stubborn species before. They learn to cooperate or they learn to serve in other ways." Sarah felt cold anger building in her chest. She had spent her entire career protecting human colonies from pirates and natural disasters. She had seen humans die to defend their homes and their freedom. Now this crystal creature was calmly telling her that humanity needed to become slaves to survive. "You mentioned 47 species in the Council," Sarah said, keeping her voice level. "How many of them joined willingly?" Kethver paused for a moment. "What an odd question. They all serve the Council now." "That is what matters. That's not what I asked. The details of past integrations are not relevant to your situation," the alien said. What matters is that you understand your position. Your species has developed faster than light travel, which means you can no longer be ignored. You must be properly managed. Sarah looked at her crew again. She could see the same thought in all their eyes. These aliens saw humans as animals that needed to be controlled. They had probably done this same thing to dozens of other species over the centuries. How long do we have to consider your offer? She asked. 30 standard galactic days, as I stated. This is quite generous. Most species receive only 10 days to make their decision. Kethavar's voice carried what sounded like pride, as if he was being remarkably kind. Sarah nodded slowly. I see, and this decision affects all of humanity? Obviously. The Council does not negotiate with individual worlds or regions. We deal with species as a whole. Your answer will determine the fate of every human in the galaxy. The silence stretched. For several seconds, Sarah could hear her own heartbeat. She thought about the 12 human colonies, each one built by people who had left Earth to find new homes among the stars. She thought about the children being born on those worlds, who would grow up never knowing freedom if she gave the wrong answer. She thought about her own grandfather, who had fought in Earth's last great war and always told her that some things were worth dying for. Sarah looked directly into the alien's glowing eyes and spoke clearly so there could be no misunderstanding. Absolutely not. The lights in Kethvar's head flickered in what was clearly surprise. For several seconds, the alien said nothing at all. When it finally spoke, its voice had changed. I do not think you understand the situation. Perhaps I was not clear enough? This is not a request. This is an instruction from the Galactic Council. And I'm telling you that humanity refuses, Sarah said. We will not stop expanding. We will not give you our resources. We will not accept your representatives on our worlds. Find someone else to bully. The crystal being's body began to glow, brighter, and the sound of its voice became sharper, like breaking glass. No species has ever refused the Council's guidance. You're making a serious mistake. Maybe, Sarah said. But it's our mistake to make. Humans don't kneel to anyone, alien or otherwise. Kethvar stared at her for a long moment. You would choose destruction over civilization? We'd choose freedom over slavery every single time. The alien's image flickered, and for a moment Sarah thought the transmission might be ending. But Kethvar's voice came back, colder than before. Very well. You have 30 days to reconsider this foolish decision. When that time ends, the Council will take the necessary steps to ensure galactic stability. Do not mistake our patience for weakness. The screen went black. The alien ship remained in orbit, a dark reminder that humanity's peaceful expansion into space had just come to an end. Sarah turned to her communications officer. Get me a priority channel to Earth Command, Mars Colony, and every human settlement. Tell them we need to talk. Now. As her crew rushed to carry out her orders, Sarah stared out the window at the alien vessel. She wondered if she had just doomed her species or saved it. Either way, there was no going back now. The war for humanity's future had just begun. The Great Hall of the Galactic Council had not seen such excitement in over 200 years. Representatives from 47 different species filled the massive chamber, their various forms creating a bizarre collection of shapes and colors. Some floated in special atmosphere bubbles, others stood on multiple legs, and a few existed as pure energy contained in crystal shells. At the center of the hall, Ambassador Kethvar stood before the Council's ruling body. His crystal form still glowed with the anger he felt from his meeting with the humans. Around him, the other Council members whispered among themselves in dozens of different languages. The humans have refused, Kethvar announced, his voice echoing through the chamber. They claim they will not accept Council guidance or pay tribute. The primitive species believes it can defy 10,000 years of galactic order. A ripple of what could only be described as laughter moved through the assembled aliens. The hegemony representative, a creature that looked like a mass of writhing tentacles, spoke first. Refused? Did you perhaps translate incorrectly? No species refuses the Council. I translated perfectly, Kethvar replied. Their leader, a female called Captain Chun, stated that humans do not kneel to anyone. She used the word absolutely. Before her refusal, more laughter echoed through the hall. The collective's representative, a hive mind that spoke through multiple smaller beings, buzzed in amusement. How delightfully primitive. They still think in terms of individual pride. Their emotional development clearly lags behind their technical abilities. High above the other representatives, in a section of the chamber filled with swirling energy, the ethereals observed in silence. These ancient beings had guided the council since its formation. They rarely spoke during normal meetings, but today one of them sent thoughts directly into the minds of all present. The young species always resist at first, it is natural. They do not yet understand the benefits of order. Admiral Vexthal, the Zephyrian military commander, stepped forward. His crystal body was larger and more angular than the ambassador's, marked with scars from countless battles. The 47th Pacification Fleet is ready to deploy, he announced. 200 ships should be more than sufficient to handle this minor disruption. The humans have only basic faster-than-light technology and primitive weapons. What do we know of their military capabilities? Asked the representative from the Dominion, a species that looked like walking trees made of metal, HFY activated. A holographic display showing images of human ships and weapons. Their largest vessels are barely 300 meters long. They use chemical rockets for close-range combat and basic energy weapons. Their military doctrine appears to focus on individual ship actions rather than coordinated fleet movements. The assembled aliens studied the images with obvious amusement. Human ships looked crude and blocky compared to the elegant curves and crystal formations of council vessels. Their ships look like flying boxes, commented the hegemony representative. Do they even have proper shielding? Minimal, Admiral Vexthal replied. Our intelligence reports indicate they rely primarily on thick metal armor. Quite primitive. A single council destroyer could likely defeat 10 of their largest vessels. What about their population and industrial capacity? Asked another representative. Approximately 8 billion on their homeworld, with perhaps 2 billion more spread. Across their 12 colonies, Kethver answered. Their industrial output is impressive for such a young species, but nothing compared to even our smallest member civilizations. One of the newer council members, a slug-like creature from a species that had only joined 50 years ago, raised a question. What if they actually fight? My people remember how difficult resistance can be to overcome. The chamber fell silent for a moment. The question seemed to surprise many of the older members. Finally, Admiral Vexthal responded. Fight with what? Their primitive weapons against council technology? It would be like insects attacking a starship. The conflict would last perhaps a few days. Besides, added the collective's representative, humans are emotional creatures. Once they see the futility of resistance, they will surrender quickly. Emotional species always do. They lack the logical thinking needed for a prolonged conflict. The ethereal's thoughts touched their minds again. The reports on human psychology are quite clear. They form strong attachments to individuals in specific locations. They will surrender rather than see their loved ones harmed. This weakness has served us well with other emotional species? Admiral Vexthal nodded in agreement. The plan is simple. We arrive at one of their outer colonies with overwhelming force. When they see they cannot win, they will contact their leadership and demand surrender. Humans will not sacrifice their children for pride. How long do you estimate for complete pacification? Asked the Dominion representative. 2 weeks at most, the Admiral replied confidently. Most of that time will be spent traveling between their scattered colonies. The actual fighting should be over in hours once we demonstrate our superiority. Kethver brought up another holographic display, this one showing human colony locations. We have identified their weakest settlement, a farming world called Kepler 442b. It has only 50,000 inhabitants and minimal defenses. A perfect place to demonstrate the cost of defiance. Excellent, said the hegemony representative. Make sure to broadcast the attack to their other colonies. Nothing motivates surrender. like watching others suffer for resistance. What about their homeworld? Asked the slug-like alien. Should we position forces there as well? Admiral Vexthal considered this. Not necessary. Once they see what happens to their outlying colonies, Earth will surrender without additional pressure. Humans are protective of their birth world. They would never risk its destruction. The collective buzzed in agreement. Our analysis shows that humans have a strong psychological attachment to their planet of origin. They call it their mother world in many of their languages. They will not endanger it. One of the ethereals sent another thought to the assembly. We have followed this pattern successfully for centuries. Show strength, demonstrate consequences, accept surrender. The formula works for all emotional species. When will the fleet depart? Asked the Dominion representative. Immediately, Admiral Vexthal replied. I see no reason to wait. The sooner we resolve this minor issue, the sooner we can return to more important matters. What about the possibility that other species might see this as a sign of weakness? The newest council member asked nervously. If word spreads that any species can simply refuse council authority, the chamber erupted in various forms of alien laughter. The hegemony representative spoke for many when it said, what other species would be so foolish? Every civilization in the galaxy knows the consequences of defying the council. The humans are simply too primitive to understand reality yet. Kethver nodded in agreement. Our intelligence suggests that humans lack proper historical records of galactic politics. They probably do not even know that the council exists until we contacted them. Their ignorance explains their foolish response. In that case, said Admiral Vexthal, this will serve as an excellent education. By the time we finish with their outer colonies, they will understand exactly how the galaxy works. See that you capture some of their leaders alive, instructed the collective. We will need them to help manage the integration process once they surrender. Of course, the Admiral replied. Standard pacification protocols. Destroy enough to demonstrate power, capture enough to ensure cooperation. As the meeting began to wind down, the ethereal sent one final thought to the assembly. This minor disruption will soon be resolved. The humans will take their proper place in galactic civilization, just as all species before them have done. Order will be maintained. The various representatives began to file out of the chamber, chattering among themselves about other business. Most had already forgotten about the humans entirely. It was just another routine pacification, no different from dozens of others over the centuries. Admiral Vexthal remained behind, studying the holographic displays of human ships and colonies. He felt slightly insulted that the council had chosen him for such a simple task. His last 3 assignments had involved much more challenging opponents. Still, orders were orders. He turned off the displays and headed for his ship. In a few days, this human problem would be solved, and he could request assignment to something more worthy of his skills. The Admiral had no way of knowing that he was about to face the most difficult fight of his very long career. The 47th Pacification Fleet dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the Kepler 442 system. Admiral Vexthal stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching as 200 council ships arranged themselves in perfect formation. Each vessel gleamed with the advanced technology of their respective species. Crystal ships from the Zephyrians, organic-looking craft from the hegemony, and geometric structures from the collective. Sir, we are detecting the human colony on the second planet, reported his communications officer. Population readings confirm approximately 50,000 inhabitants. Any defensive installations? The Admiral asked, though he expected the answer to be no. Minimal, sir. We detect what appears to be a small orbital station and perhaps a dozen patrol craft. Nothing that could threaten even our smallest vessels. Admiral Vexthal nodded in satisfaction. This would be even easier than he had expected. He activated the fleet communication system. All ships, this is Admiral Vexthal. Deploy to standard pacification formation. Target military installations first, then civilian infrastructure as needed. Remember, we want survivors to spread word of council power. The massive fleet began moving toward the planet. Their ships were so advanced that the human defenders would not even detect them until they were already in weapons range. It was almost unfair, but that was the point. "Sir, we are receiving a transmission from the planet," the communications officer announced. "Put it through," the admiral said. He was curious to hear what the humans would say when they saw his fleet. The main screen flickered to life, showing a middle-aged human male in a simple military uniform. The man had dark skin and serious eyes that seemed to stare directly at the admiral. "This is Colonial Governor Marcus Rodriguez of Kepler 442b, the human said. "I assume you are here because we refuse to surrender our freedom to your council." "I am Admiral Vexthal of the Galactic Council's 47th Pacification Fleet," the admiral replied. "You have one opportunity to surrender peacefully. Order your population to prepare for transfer to designated holding areas." Governor Rodriguez was quiet for a moment. Then he did something that surprised the admiral. The human smiled. "Admiral, I have a message for you and your council," Rodriguez said. "You can come and take it." The transmission ended. Admiral Vexthal stared at the blank screen in confusion. He had never heard a response like that before. Usually, primitive species either surrendered immediately or begged for mercy. "Sir, should we begin the attack?" asked his weapons officer. "Yes," the admiral replied. "Target their orbital station first. Make it quick and clean." The first shots came from 3 Zephyrian destroyers. Their crystal weapons fired beams of pure energy that should have vaporized the human station instantly. Instead, something impossible happened. The human station's shields held. "What?" Admiral Vexthal said. "How do they have shields that can stop our weapons?" "Unknown, sir," his tactical officer replied. "Our intelligence indicated they only had basic defensive systems." "Fire again," the admiral ordered. "Full power this time." The destroyers fired again, joined by ships from the Hegemony and Collective. The combined firepower should have destroyed anything the humans could build. The station's shields flickered but still held. Then the humans fired back. The weapons that came from the human station were unlike anything in council records. Instead of energy beams or particle weapons, the humans launched what appeared to be simple metal projectiles. But these projectiles moved at incredible speed and hit with devastating force. One of the Zephyrian destroyers simply disappeared in a flash of light. Another was cut in half by a projectile that somehow passed right through its shields as if they were not there. "Impossible," Admiral Vexthal whispered. "How are they penetrating our defenses?" More human weapons began firing from the planet's surface. Missiles rose from hidden launch sites, each one guided by sophisticated targeting systems. But these were not ordinary missiles. When they reached the council ships, they split apart into hundreds of smaller projectiles that swarmed over the alien vessels like angry insects. "Sir, we are losing ships," his tactical officer reported. "The humans are using weapons we have never encountered." "All ships, spread out and attack from multiple directions," the admiral ordered. "They cannot have many of these advanced weapons?" He was wrong. As the council fleet spread across the system, more human weapons revealed themselves. Asteroids that had looked empty suddenly bristled with missile launchers. Ships that had appeared to be simple cargo vessels dropped their disguises and began attacking with the same devastating weapons. The humans had been preparing for this fight. "Sir, the destroyer Kethval is requesting permission to retreat," his communications officer reported. "They have lost 70% of their crew." "Denied," Admiral Vexthal snapped. "We cannot retreat from primitive humans." But the humans were proving to be anything but primitive. Their tactics were completely different from anything the Council had faced. Instead of fighting ship-to-ship battles, the humans used coordinated swarm attacks. Dozens of small craft would surround a single Council vessel and attack from all directions at once. Worse, the humans seemed to have no fear of death. Admiral Vexthal watched in horror as a damaged human ship deliberately rammed itself into one of his cruisers. The impact destroyed both vessels, but the humans had deliberately sacrificed themselves to take out a more valuable target. "Sir, "We are receiving another transmission from the planet," his communications officer said. "Put it through." Governor Rodriguez appeared on the screen again. His face was dirty and there was smoke behind him, but he was still smiling. "Having trouble, Admiral?" the human asked. "Maybe your intelligence was not as good as you thought." "This is impossible," Admiral Vexthal said. "You are a primitive species. How do you have such advanced weapons?" "Primitive?" Rodriguez laughed. "Admiral, humans have been fighting wars for thousands of years. We have gotten very good at killing things that want to kill us. You cannot win," the Admiral insisted. "Even if you destroy my entire fleet, the Council will send more, bigger fleets. You will all die." The human's expression became serious. "Maybe, but you will not be alive to see it." The transmission ended just as alarms began screaming throughout the Admiral's ship. Human attack craft had somehow gotten past his defenses and were targeting his flagship's engines. "All power to shields," he ordered. "Launch all fighters." But the human attack was unlike anything he had prepared for. The small human ships did not try to engage his fighters in combat. Instead, they focused entirely on his ship's critical systems. They were not trying to win a glorious battle. They were trying to cripple his command vessel. "Sir, we have lost engine power," his engineering officer reported. "The humans have targeted our propulsion systems specifically." Admiral Vexthal realized with growing horror that the humans had studied Council ship designs. They knew exactly where to hit to cause maximum damage. This was not a desperate defense by primitives. This was a carefully planned battle by warriors who understood their enemy. "Sir, the planet's surface batteries are targeting us," his weapons officer warned. The Admiral looked at his tactical display. Half his fleet was already destroyed or disabled. The survivors were scattered across the system, many of them trying to retreat despite his orders. The humans had turned what should have been an easy victory into a disaster. "Sir, incoming transmission." From the Council High Command, his communications officer announced. Admiral Vexthal straightened his uniform and accepted the call. The image of Council Leader Zethmor appeared on his screen. "Admiral, your fleet transponders indicate heavy losses," the Council Leader said. "What is your status?" "The humans were prepared for our attack," Admiral Vexthal admitted. "They have weapons and tactics that do not match our intelligence reports." "Explain." "They fight like every battle is their last chance to survive. They sacrifice themselves to destroy our ships. They target our weaknesses with precision. And they refuse to surrender even when facing certain death." Council Leader Zethmor was quiet for a long moment. "Are you telling me that a primitive species has defeated the 47th Pacification Fleet?" Admiral Vexthal looked at his tactical display. Again, only 60 ships remained operational, and many of those were damaged. The humans were still fighting with the same intensity as when the battle began. "Sir, I am requesting immediate reinforcements," he said. "These humans are not what we expected." The transmission from the Council went silent. Admiral Vexthal knew that his career was probably over, but that was the least of his concerns. For the first time in his long life, he was beginning to understand what the humans meant when they talked about freedom. They would rather die than surrender it. And they were very good at making sure they did not die alone. The news of Admiral Vexthal's defeat reached Earth 3 days after the battle at Kepler 442b. Captain Sarah Chun stood in the war room deep beneath Earth's surface, watching as reports flowed in from across human space. Every screen showed the same thing. Humanity was mobilizing for total war. "Confirm those numbers again," Sarah said to her intelligence officer. "Yes, ma'am. Every human colony has declared a state of emergency. All civilian production has been converted to military manufacturing. We estimate that human industrial output will increase by 400% within the next month." Sarah nodded grimly. The aliens had made one critical mistake. They thought humans would fight like the other species they had conquered. They thought humans would try to negotiate or surrender when things got difficult. They had no idea what they had actually awakened. What about the new ship designs? she asked. Commander Jackson, her chief engineer, stepped forward with a tablet full of technical data. The emergency shipyards are already producing the new Hunter-class destroyers. We have incorporated every piece of alien technology we captured from their wrecked ships. Our new vessels are faster, better armed, and more heavily shielded than anything we had before. How many ships can we build per month? At current production levels, about 200 new vessels per month across all human colonies. But that number will increase as more shipyards come online. Sarah felt a cold satisfaction. The Galactic Council had given humanity exactly what it needed, an example of their technology and a reason to improve upon it. Human engineers had always been good at taking apart alien devices and building better versions. "Admiral Chun," came a voice from behind her. Sarah turned to see General Morrison, the head of human colonial defense. "We have received word from the outer colonies. They are ready to begin the counteroffensive." Sarah had been promoted to admiral after Earth's government realized they were now fighting for the survival of their species. It was not a promotion she had wanted, but it was one she accepted without hesitation. "Show me the tactical situation," she said, the main display activated, showing a three-dimensional map of human space and the surrounding area. Red dots marked known alien positions, while blue dots showed human forces. What the aliens probably did not know was that the blue dots had tripled in number since the first attack. "The alien fleets are regrouping here, here, and here," General Morrison explained, pointing to several red clusters. "They appear to be preparing for a larger assault on our core worlds." "They are thinking like the old council," Sarah replied. "Attack the important targets and force surrender." "They still do not understand what they are dealing with." She was right. Across the galaxy, the Galactic Council was making preparations for what they believed would be a decisive campaign. They had increased the size of their attack fleets and brought in their most experienced commanders. But they were still thinking in terms of conventional warfare against a conventional enemy. Humans were not conventional. "Admiral, we are receiving reports from our scout ships," Commander Jackson said. "The aliens have established a forward base in the Proxima system. Intelligence suggests they are using it to coordinate attacks on our outer colonies." Sarah studied the display. Proxima was only 12 light-years from Earth. The aliens were getting closer to humanity's home system. But instead of feeling worried, she felt pleased. They were giving her exactly the target she needed. "How many ships do they have at Proxima?" she asked. "Approximately 300 vessels, including supply ships and construction platforms." "Perfect," Sarah said. "Signal the fleet commanders. We begin Operation Payback in 6 hours. Operation Payback was humanity's first major offensive action. Unlike the desperate defense at Kepler 442b, this would be a carefully planned assault using every advantage humans had discovered about their alien enemies, the human fleet that assembled for. The attack was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Instead of the elegant, graceful ships preferred by council species, human vessels looked like floating weapons platforms. They were covered in armor, bristling with missile launchers, and designed for one purpose: destroying enemy ships as efficiently as possible. Admiral Sarah Chun commanded the fleet from her flagship, the Defiance. The ship was one of the new Hunter-class destroyers, built using reverse-engineered alien technology but improved with human engineering. It was faster than any council ship, more heavily armed, and protected by shields that had been designed specifically to counter alien weapons. "All ships report ready for jump," her communications officer announced. "Signal the fleet," Sarah ordered. "Today we show the galaxy what happens when you threaten humanity." The human fleet vanished into faster-than-light travel. They would arrive at Proxima in 3 hours, giving the aliens no time to prepare for what was coming. Meanwhile, in the Proxima system, Council Commander Yuthalin was reviewing reports from the failed assault on Kepler 442b. The Zephyrian officer had been placed in charge of the forward base after Admiral Vexthal's disgrace. He was determined not to make the same mistakes. The humans used some kind of advanced targeting system, he said to his staff. They were able to hit our ship's weak points with unusual accuracy. Perhaps they captured some of our technology, suggested his tactical officer. Impossible, Commander Yuthilan replied. Council technology is far too advanced for primitive species to understand. They must have gotten lucky. It was exactly this kind of thinking that had led to the disaster at Chapler 442b, the Council's. Belief in their own superiority blinded them to the possibility that humans might actually be intelligent, adaptable, and dangerous. Sir, we are detecting incoming ships, his sensor officer announced. Large fleet, moving at high speed. How many ships? Commander Yuthilan asked. Approximately 500 vessels, sir. The commander felt his crystal body grow cold. 500 ships was more than double the size of Admiral Vexel's fleet. Where had the humans gotten so many vessels? All ships to battle stations, he ordered. Signal the Council High Command. Tell them the humans are launching a major assault. But the message never reached the Council. The first thing the human fleet did when they arrived was destroy all the alien communication arrays. The aliens at Proxima would fight this battle alone, cut off from any hope of reinforcement. This is Admiral Sarah Chun of the Human Colonial. Defense Force, came a transmission from the approaching fleet. You have attacked our colonies and threatened our people. We are here to return the favor. Commander Yuthilan activated his weapon systems and prepared to fight. But as the human ships came closer, he began to realize that something was very wrong. These were not the crude vessels that his intelligence reports had described. These ships looked advanced, dangerous, and purpose-built for war. Sir, the human ships are using some kind of advanced scanner, his sensor officer reported. They appear to be targeting our ship's critical systems. Impossible, the commander said. How could they know our ship designs well enough to target? Specific systems? He got his answer when the human fleet opened fire. The weapons that struck his ships were not the primitive energy beams or projectiles that earlier reports had described. These were sophisticated weapons that seemed designed specifically to counter Council defenses. Human missiles passed through alien shields as if they were not there. Human energy weapons targeted the exact frequencies that would cause maximum damage to Council armor. Human fighters moved with precision that suggested they had detailed knowledge of every alien ship design. Sir, how do they know so much about our technology? His tactical officer asked in panic. Commander Yuthilan suddenly understood. The humans had not just defeated Admiral Vexel's fleet. They had captured alien ships, studied the technology, and learned how to counter it. In just a few weeks, they had analyzed decades of Council military development and created weapons specifically designed to destroy Council forces. All ships retreat to the outer system, he ordered. We cannot win this fight. But retreat was not an option. The human fleet had positioned itself to block all escape routes. They were not interested in driving the aliens away. They wanted to destroy every single Council ship in the system. The battle lasted 6 hours. When it was over, the Council's forward base at Proxima had been completely destroyed. Not a single alien ship escaped to report what had happened. Admiral Sarah Chun stood on her bridge, looking at the wreckage floating in space. Her fleet had lost only 12 ships while destroying over 300 alien vessels. It was the most decisive victory in human history. Signal all human colonies, she ordered. Tell them that Operation Payback was a complete success. The aliens are not invincible. We can beat them. As the news spread across human space, something changed in the galaxy. For the first time in 10,000 years, the Galactic Council faced an enemy that was not afraid of them. An enemy that could learn, adapt, and fight back with devastating effectiveness. The sleeping giant had awakened, and it was angry. 2 years had passed since the Galactic Council first contacted humanity with their demands. The great hall that had once echoed with laughter at human defiance now filled with the sounds of panic and desperate arguments. Of the 47 species that made up the Council, only 23 still attended meetings. The others had either surrendered to human forces or fled to distant parts of the galaxy. Ambassador Kethver stood in chains before the council's emergency session. His crystal body was cracked and dim, showing the damage from his recent capture by human forces. Around him, the remaining council members argued in voices filled with fear and anger. "This is impossible," declared the hegemony representative, its tentacles writhing with agitation. "How can a primitive species have conquered half the galaxy in just 2 years?" "They are not primitive," said the collective spokesperson, its hive mind buzzing with confusion. "Our analysis was completely wrong. These humans learn faster than any species we have encountered." High above them, the energy forms of the ethereals swirled in patterns that showed their distress. For the first time in 10,000 years, these ancient beings were afraid. "We have received another transmission from the human fleet," announced the Council's military coordinator. "They are demanding the surrender of all remaining Council forces." The chamber fell silent. Through the great windows they could see the human fleet in orbit around the Council's capital world. Hundreds of ships surrounded the planet, each one bristling with weapons that had proven devastatingly effective against Council technology. "What do they want?" asked the Dominion representative, its tree-like form shaking with fear. The coordinator activated a holographic display. Admiral Sarah Chun appeared in the center of the chamber, her image towering over the assembled aliens. Her uniform was different now, marked with the insignia of the Terran Federation, humanity's new galactic government. "Members of the former Galactic Council," Admiral Chun began, her voice calm but firm. 2 years ago, you demanded that humanity submit to your authority. You threatened our colonies and attacked our people. Today I am here to inform you that the war is over." The alien representatives looked at each other in confusion. Some seemed hopeful that the humans were offering peace. "Your fleets have been destroyed," Admiral Chun continued. "Your military bases have been captured. Your member species have either surrendered or requested protection from the Terran Federation. You are no longer in control of this galaxy." "What are your terms?" called out the hegemony representative. "Simple," Admiral Chun replied. "Complete and unconditional surrender. All Council military forces will be disbanded. All Council governing bodies will be dissolved. Any species that wishes to join the Terran Federation will be welcomed as equal partners. Those who prefer independence will be allowed to govern themselves in peace." Ambassador Kethver found his voice despite his chains. "You cannot destroy 10,000 years of galactic order. The Council has brought stability to countless worlds." Admiral Chun's image turned to focus on him. "Your Council brought slavery, not stability. We have seen your records, Ambassador. We know how many species you destroyed for refusing to submit. We know about the worlds you stripped of resources. We know about the billions of beings who died because they wanted to remain free." "That is different," Kethver protested. "Those species were truly primitive. They needed guidance, like we did," Admiral Chun asked. "You called us primitive too? You said we needed to be managed like animals. How did that work out for you?" The chamber erupted in angry voices. Some aliens demanded that they fight to the end, others begged for mercy. A few suggested trying to negotiate better terms. But all of them knew the truth. They had lost completely. "Silence," commanded one of the ethereals, its thoughts pressing into every mind in the chamber. "The human speaks truth. We have failed." The ancient being's energy form descended toward the center of the hall. "We believed that superior technology made us superior beings. We thought that age brought wisdom and that emotion brought weakness. We were wrong about everything." "You cannot give up," said the collective's representative. "We are the rightful rulers of this galaxy." "Rightful?" Admiral Chun's voice cut through the argument. "You ruled through fear and violence. You destroyed any species that refused to bow down. That is not rightful rule. That is tyranny." She paused for a moment, then continued, "But unlike you, we believe in giving choices. Any species that wants to live in peace will be allowed to do so. Any species that wants to join our federation will be welcomed. The only thing we will not tolerate is the return of the Council's system of slavery." The Dominion representative stepped forward. What about punishment? Surely you seek revenge for our attacks on your colonies. We seek justice, not revenge, Admiral Chun replied. Those who ordered attacks on civilian populations will face trial. Those who participated in genocide will answer for their crimes. But we will not punish entire species for the actions of their leaders. Ambassador Kethver laughed bitterly. You think you can do better than 10,000 years of council rule? You think you can manage dozens of different species across thousands of worlds? We do not want to manage anyone, Admiral Chun said firmly. We want to work with others as equals. We want to trade, explore, and learn together. We want to build something better than your empire of fear. And if some species refuse? Asked the hegemony representative. Then they refuse, Admiral Chun replied with a shrug. As long as they do not attack others or enslave their own people, they can do whatever they want. Freedom means the right to make your own choices, even bad ones. The ethereal that had spoken before sent another thought to the assembly. The humans offer what we never did, true choice. Perhaps this is why they succeeded where we failed. You succeeded because you are violent barbarians, Kethver snarled. You destroy everything you touch. Admiral Chun's expression hardened. We destroy things that threaten innocent people. Your council enslaved entire civilizations. Your fleets bombed civilian targets. Your leaders ordered the extinction of species that refused to submit. If anyone in this galaxy is a barbarian, Ambassador, it is not humanity. She was right, and everyone in the chamber knew it. The Council's own records showed the truth of their rule. Billions of beings had died over the centuries, not in honorable battle, but in systematic campaigns of extermination against those who valued freedom over submission. The vote is simple, Admiral Chun announced. Surrender now and face a fair trial for your crimes, or continue fighting and face the consequences. You have 1 hour to decide. The transmission ended, leaving the chamber in stunned silence. The aliens looked at each other, seeing fear and despair in every face. Outside, the human fleet waited patiently for their answer. What choice do we have? Asked the newest council member, the slug-like being that had joined only 50 years ago. My people are already under human protection. They report that the humans have kept their promises. No enslavement, no forced tribute, no punishment for past allegiance to the council. Mine as well, admitted the Dominion representative. Quietly, the humans helped us rebuild our damaged worlds. They ask for nothing in return except that we treat our people fairly. One by one, the remaining council members began to realize that continued resistance was not just hopeless, but pointless. The humans had proven that they meant what they said. Species that surrendered were treated with respect. Worlds that joined. The Federation were given the same rights and protections as human colonies. Very well, said the ethereal, its ancient voice filled with regret. We surrender. Let it be recorded that the Galactic Council, after 10,000 years of rule, has been defeated by a species it called primitive. Ambassador Kethver slumped in his chains. Around him, the other representatives began transmitting their surrender to their remaining fleets. The great council that had ruled the galaxy for so long was dissolving before his eyes. Hours later, Admiral Sarah Chun stood on the bridge of her flagship, watching as the last council ships powered down their weapons and accepted human escort to processing centers. The war was truly over. Admiral, her communications officer said, we are receiving surrender messages from the remaining council holdouts across the galaxy. 17 more species have requested to join the Federation. Sarah nodded, feeling a mix of satisfaction and sadness. Humanity had won, but the cost had been enormous. Billions of beings had died in the fighting, and entire worlds had been damaged by the conflict. Send a message to all human colonies, she ordered. Tell them that the war is over. Tell them that we kept our promise. Humanity will never kneel. To anyone, as her words spread across human space, celebration erupted on thousands of worlds. But Sarah knew that the real work was just beginning. Building a galaxy where all species could live in freedom and dignity would be much harder than winning the war. Still, as she looked out at the stars, she felt hope. Humanity had proven that determination and courage could overcome any enemy. Now they would prove that these same qualities could build something better than what they had destroyed. The galaxy belonged to no one species now. It belonged to everyone who chose freedom over slavery, cooperation over domination, and hope over fear, and that Sarah thought was exactly how it should be.